This is DrivenByMoss running in Bitwig, and I have a regular scale mode here where moving to the right steps by 1 on the scale, and going up goes 3 steps on the scale. This is pretty normal, and you can change how much it goes up here with this scale layout. So there, now it only goes up by 2. But there's no way to make it not go 1 at a time to the right. You can do the horizontal versus vertical here, but it's not a really general solution. Ideally, the user would be able to set the delta horizontally and vertically and have any number of regular layouts that they can configure. So that would be an isomorphic type layout, and it's very useful. But for now, I just started with a simple staggered layout, which might not look simple at first, but it is. I'll go in here and select the staggered layout. So now what this does is it steps 2 as you go to the right, and it steps 5 as you go up. So that ends up creating chords very easily. And this chord here ends up mapping to this because it's these same notes. You can see the octaves run this way. And so when you go down this way, that's going to correspond to this one. And then this one's going to correspond to this one. So you have an octave transpose of that chord going up here. And this symmetry gives you the backbone of your key here and makes harmonic motion easy to understand and the geometry of the layout as you move away. So you can kind of hear the tonal shift. And this layout makes different kinds of music easier to play. So whereas in other scale modes, you can easily step by single steps, making melodic motion very easy, it's a little bit obscure to do chords, whereas here, chords are very clear. It's not the best sound to demonstrate it, but it works. And melodic motion is a little bit more difficult, so you actually have to go in a staggered motion to go up the scale. That's down, and then you can go up. And you can get used to that because it's regular, especially in the chromatic mode, which I'll show in a moment. But for now, I just want to show how easy it is to do an arpeggio run in this. And that's just because you get the ergonomics of this layout. And it's chosen with 2 and 5 for an important reason. You need to make the upward motion be odd at the very least, because you are always stepping by 2 here. You would never otherwise get the odd scale steps. So the code ensures that that motion is odd, and for seven note scales, it goes up by the length of the scale minus 2, so that's 5, and that's convenient. But if we go into let's see, we'll go into chromatic, which is now an actual scale that you can select and benefit from the layout. Here, of course, 2 steps is always a whole tone in the chromatic scale, and you get 5 semitones going up this way, So that's going to make this your perfect fourth, and this is going to be your perfect fifth. And then add those together, you get the octave. And it's still 5 here, because when you take the octave, that's 12, and subtract 2, you end up with 10, which is an even number. So we split that across 2. And what this ends up doing is creating nice clustering effect of the harmonic notes, even in the chromatic scale. So here's a major scale. It's all together here. And so on. And then you can still get to the chromatic notes by drifting off of that key. As you go out to the edges, you get the next related notes. So a lot of times you'll end up modulating in that direction, or you might modulate the opposite direction and introduce this note, or maybe you'll introduce this note, but it'll likely be one at the edges, because you get more chromatic stuff outside the key as you get farther away, just like in the other one. But this is in chromatic. And of course, this is isomorphic, so I can pick any key here and start playing a major scale on that. And it has the exact same shape. Likewise, chords always retain the same shape. That's what isomorphic means. This is always going to be a major chord. This is always going to be a minor chord, because this is your chromatic motion, staggered, meaning like overlapping zigzag type pattern. It's just very useful musically. I've worked with this layout for years, and it's really excellent for understanding music, and it's also quite playable. This staggered layout mode also works well in the others. Oh, I can also show here in chromatic real quick the pentatonic. It's also the backbone of your scale, so that's all clustered as well. But let's go to an actual pentatonic here. Here we go. Here's a minor pentatonic. So that works well in the layout, as do many other scales. Pretty much everything that I've tested here works. So yeah, it's not my ideal solution. My ideal solution would be able to simply set the numbers for delta X. How many scale steps do you want to go as you move to the right? And delta Y, how many scale steps do you want to move as you go up? That would also simplify the code, I think, long term, if we did add that configuration option. But I feel like this is a worthy addition as it is. But yeah, let me know if you have any other questions, or we can resume the discussion, and I hope to get this merged. Thanks again for making DrivenByMoss. It has been my Bitwig sidekick from the beginning. I love it and still use it for pretty much every track. So thanks.